So, years after the Arkham franchise had seemingly closed its doors for good, WB Montreal decided to release a trailer to what appears to be the series' spiritual predecessor. And as Gotham Knights vastly approaches, I figured I would turn my attention back to the Arkham series. Or, more specifically, its finale that undeniably left audiences with a bit of a mixed bag. Sure, it was the final edition of this groundbreaking superhero series, but did it really leave fans all that satisfied? Hey guys, my name is DJ and welcome to What They Should Have Made, a show in which I take a look at a fictional story from the world of movies, video games, what have you, and try to approve it using my own ideas. So, as you can probably tell by the title of this video, I was pretty unsatisfied with Arkham Knight. Sure, it had the slickest combat system in any Arkham game. Sure, it had an admittedly kick-ass Batmobile. And sure, the DLC content was definitely plentiful and worth the season pass. However, when it comes to the base game story campaign, let's just say that there is a lot that either falls flat or misses the mark completely. I mean, throughout the story, it felt like we were just met as an audience with constant gut punches of obvious outcomes or disappointing reveals. Everybody is sick of the Joker? Bam! There's the Joker in Ace Chemicals. Everybody thinks that Jason Todd is going to be the Arkham Knight despite the fact that Rocksteady promised everybody that he wasn't? Bam! There's Jason Todd as Arkham Knight. Everybody thinks that people like Azrael and Hush are going to be incredibly interesting components to the overall main campaign. Bam! They are disappointing side missions. But with all of those expectations for the final Arkham game, how exactly could they have fixed it? Well, today I'm going to try my best to fix Arkham Knight's story. From its usage of so many underutilized characters to the ultimate conclusion of the Arkham franchise. From the ashes of Arkham City, the poison of Arkham Asylum, and the beginnings of Arkham Origins, I will try my best to conclude this series in the best way I can. However, before we get into it, I'm going to lay down two big ground rules for myself. One, everybody in my story must have already been introduced in the Arkham lore. So, I'm not going to introduce any new players to this story. Sure, people like Simon Stagg and Professor Pig can have their side missions, especially Pig, but in terms of the main story, I want to make this feel as much like an Arkham story as possible. And two, the Arkham Knight kinda has to be in my story. I mean, the whole game is kinda built around the inclusion and mystery of this one guy, so it makes sense. And lastly, I have to make this story a final conclusion for the Batman. I'm not going to try and set up anything for the future. This game, in canon, is the final tale of the Caped Crusader, so we are going to make sure it stays that way. So, with all of that out of the way, let's begin. So, we kick it off with basically the same intro from the real game. Scarecrow is preparing to destroy the city with his fear toxin cloudburst, which causes the evacuation of the city. The only people left are those who will thrive in the chaos of an abandoned Gotham, the GCPD, and Batman. So, Batman has his talk with Jim Gordon in the beginning, just like in the real game. However, in this conversation, he tells Jim Gordon that he already knows where Scarecrow is. So he drives off to Ace Chemicals, just like in the real game, but he tells Jim Gordon to make sure that the GCPD is ready for anything. And as he is driving, he tells Robin to go and find Poison Ivy. If Scarecrow somehow does fill the city with fear gas, she may be the only one that could help due to her knowledge on plants and toxins. After the conversation ends, he makes it to Ace Chemicals where he decides to circumvent the building. And, of course, he beats up a bunch of goons before finally making it to Scarecrow. But before Batman can get his hands on Scarecrow, we see Hush come from the shadows and take him down with a blunt object to the back of the head. So we see Scarecrow and Hush beat the hell out of Batman while he's on the ground before Scarecrow knocks him out with some sort of knockout gas. Meanwhile, as Batman blacks out, we cut to everybody's favorite bird boy himself, Robin. just like Catwoman in Arkham City, I've decided to give Robin a few moments where we get to play as him in Arkham Knight. So, as we cut back to Robin, we see him going to check up on Poison Ivy as instructed to by Batman. He, of course, has to fight through some Ivy-enchanted thugs to get to her, but he does get to her in the end. Robin tells Poison Ivy that he's there because of the whole, Scarecrow situation that's going on right now, but Poison Ivy responds. She tells Robin that Scarecrow came up to her weeks ago about this whole evil plan to destroy Gotham in fear. However, Ivy decided not to help him because his fear gas would eventually kill all the plants in Gotham. So, Poison Ivy is portrayed to be on the side of Batman, so Scarecrow doesn't end up eventually killing all of her plants. But after Robin's conversation with Poison Ivy, we jump back to Batman's side of the tale as he wakes up from his unconscious state. And as Batman goes to get up, he realizes that he has been tied to a chair inside this empty-looking and decaying motel room with Hush sitting next to him. I figured there would be a cool duality shot with Hush, who looks like Bruce Wayne still, and Batman sitting side by side. I don't know, I think that would just be a cool shot. Anyways, Hush then goes on about outsmarting Batman as he awaits Scarecrow's plan. He says that he can't wait to watch the legacy of both Batman and Bruce Wayne die tonight. That is, before getting interrupted by a nearby television in the background. On the TV is a Gotham City news broadcast with Vicky Vale reporting that the station just received some sort of video message. In this video message, there is only one person: the Arkham Knight. The Arkham Knight promises that
after this evening's events, Batman will have to deal with one of two scenarios. Either Batman will betray his stupid morals and join the Arkham Knight once and for all, or Batman will be broken both physically and mentally.
This portrays Arkham Knight as a character that's really focused on the Batman because, well, I guess everybody in Gotham City just wants to kill the Batman, if you think about it. Either way, after this reveal on the television, Hush basically looks over at Batman and starts to gloat. He says that he can't wait to watch this promised breakdown of the Dark Knight. However, during his taunting monologue, we see Nightwing come in and immediately take down Hush. Because, yeah, no more of this Batman works alone nonsense. So, Nightwing knocks out Hush before he starts untying Batman from his confinements. Afterwards, Batman thanks him before telling him to take Hush to the GCPD. Nightwing obliges, picking up Hush over his shoulder before putting him, I guess in the back of his motorcycle. Either way, Nightwing carries Hush and takes him away as Batman continues his journey to Scarecrow. And Batman decides that the logical thing to do is to go out and go find information on the Scarecrow's plan from none other than the Penguin. I mean, Penguin seems to know all the underground connections in Gotham, so Batman going after Penguin kinda makes sense. So, after Batman fights his way through some more goons, he quickly interrogates Penguin for some information, which, after some more violent interrogation methods, Penguin obliges. He tells Batman that he heard that something was happening at Wayne Enterprises. He even heard that no-good Bruce Wayne may be helping Scarecrow with his plan at the Enterprises building. So, after Batman probably breaks one or two of Penguin's fingers, he heads off to Wayne Enterprises. So as Batman is driving towards Wayne Enterprises, he gets a call from Alfred. Alfred starts expressing concern about how many foes are out in Gotham City tonight, with Scarecrow, Hush, and this Arkham Knight fella. Not to mention all the chaos in the abandoned Gotham City. Batman tells Alfred that, of course, he can handle it, but to tell Alfred to do some more digging on Arkham Knight. And after the call, Batman finally makes it to Wayne Enterprises. And even though Hush was taken away earlier by Nightwing, it seems as though Batman still has to confront his Bruce Wayne lookalike at Wayne Enterprises. Apparently, he somehow escaped from Nightwing's capture and is now holding other Wayne staff members hostage. Hush tells the hostages to remember him. Remember that Bruce Wayne is more powerful than anybody, that Bruce Wayne can do whatever the hell he wants, that this company is built off the man with the biggest wallet and the smallest dick in Gotham. So yeah, basically Hush is just trying to ruin the legacy of Bruce Wayne. And during the speech, Batman must take out all of his goons one by one before taking down Hush himself. And as Batman has Hush down, he urgently asks him what Scarecrow was planning, but Hush doesn't budge. Batman then quickly knocks out Hush before turning his attention over to one of the henchmen who hopefully won't be wasting his freaking time. The frightened henchman tells him that Scarecrow is using the now condemned Arkham Island as his base of operations. And after the goon complies, Batman knocks him out. That is, before turning around and realizing that Hush has disappeared. But Batman doesn't have any time to waste on this. He has to go to Arkham Island and stop Scarecrow right this minute. And as Batman is making his way over to Arkham Island, he gets a call from Nightwing. Nightwing explains that Harley Quinn and her gang decided to ambush Nightwing, and as such, Hush used that to get away. And even though Batman would probably love to continue this conversation, he gets interrupted by, oh shit, an explosion at the GCPD! So Batman, as he enters the GCPD, realizes that Harley Quinn and her gang have completely taken over the GCPD. She says on the loudspeaker that the police department is meant to be protecting people. It's meant to be there to stop the deaths of everybody in Gotham, yet they couldn't stop the death of Joker. And so Batman has to fight up the GCPD building, saving cops from their inevitable deaths. And when Batman finally reaches the top, it is revealed that Harley Quinn has James Gordon hostage. With a knife to Jim's throat, Harley Quinn screams at Batman, saying that he let the Joker die, but now he's gonna watch as Gordon dies. However, right before Batman can get to Harley, we see that the Arkham Knight comes out from the shadows and takes down Harley Quinn. And after taking down Harley Quinn, the Arkham Knight looks directly at Batman and says in a distorted voice,
Look at her. Look at this woman. Yet another person who has fallen because of you. Well, Bruce, she's not going to be the only one you fail, unless you join me.
That is before a bunch of Arkham Knight soldiers rush in to take on Batman as the Arkham Knight takes away Jim Gordon. And after he beats down all the soldiers, Batman then rushes outside to realize that Arkham Knight and Jim Gordon are nowhere to be seen. Alfred tries to reason with Bruce, telling him that even though Jim Gordon is a very trusted companion, he still has to save all of Gotham City. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Batman agrees, before telling Alfred not to tell Barbara about this. So, Batman reluctantly makes his way to Arkham Island, crashing through the gates of Arkham Asylum before finally getting out of his car. We see the boss battle between Scarecrow and Batman, and when Batman is finally on the verge of victory, Scarecrow gets a chance to shoot his fear gas into the eyes of the Dark Knight. Through this, we get an in-depth dive into the mind of the Caped Crusader. Through this dive into Batman's drugged-up psyche, we see him having to confront some of his inner demons. We see him ask himself questions like, should he have gone to save Jim? Should he give in to the Arkham Knight? What would his parents think if he lets another innocent person die after dealing with the grief of people like Jason Todd, Talia al Ghul, the Joker, and Hugo Strange? However, Batman starts to try and fight out of this fever dream as he starts to hear the voice of Alfred. We hear Alfred saying, Bruce, your vitals are spiking. You need to... He cuts out. Batman starts to get up, not really paying too much attention to the whole Alfred situation, as he sees Scarecrow push, of course, the big red button. Batman then gets up and knocks Scarecrow to the floor, beating the hell out of him, screaming at him to stop the detonation, but Scarecrow refuses. He says that it's too late to save Gotham. Batman, of course, knocks Scarecrow the hell out because he's clearly no help in this situation before making his way over to the machine. He does everything, trying everything to stop the detonation, but it's too late. Batman looks up through the window before seeing the cloudburst shoot off into the city from Arkham Island. Batman rushes out towards the Batmobile, clearly affected by the fear gas as he enters the vehicle. He immediately calls Oracle, asking if Alfred is okay, but Oracle responds just by saying that they have no time for that. Oracle, clearly in a panic that Gotham is falling into fear, is wondering what the hell to do, before suddenly going quiet. Even though Gotham is falling apart, Oracle still decides to send him a video from the Arkham Knight. The Arkham Knight says,
"Tonight, the Batman was given two choices. One choice that would save everyone and destroy the filth of Gotham, and the other would destroy everyone he cares about. Well, to add incentive, Batman, I have decided to take 2 more hostages. However, these 2 are very important to Batman. One is this man, the billionaire Bruce Wayne. Or so you may think." The other person, Bruce Wayne's personal butler, Alfred Pennyworth. So, Batman, you better hurry, because Alfred and Gordon will not survive the wait.
the city is full of fear, and Batman is sitting alone in his Batmobile with a choice to make. Go and save Alfred and Gordon after watching Hush, disguised as Bruce Wayne, die, or save everyone else in Gotham City. Batman has to take a deep breath, clearly making a very tough decision. He exhales before calling Robin, asking for the location of Poison Ivy. Robin obliges, saying that Ivy is at the Botanical Gardens because, well, she's always at the Botanical Gardens. And finally, he tells Robin to try and go out and find the location of the Arkham Knight. Batman rushes over to the Botanical Gardens and demands Ivy's help. Ivy agrees to do so because, well, obviously, as mentioned earlier, the fear gas is kind of destroying all her plants. Ivy then tells Batman that she has a sample of Scarecrow's fear toxin and a cure that she started making when Robin was there earlier. But she needs one more ingredient to complete the cure. An ingredient that, luckily enough, Wayne Enterprises currently houses. And with that, Batman races off to Wayne Enterprises to retrieve the ingredient. And as he's doing so, he notices that Lucius Fox is currently being attacked by Arkham Knight soldiers. Batman quickly stops them before instructing Lucius to go to the safe room in Wayne Enterprises, so now we don't have to worry about Lucius Fox. And so with Lucius Fox kind of quickly written out of the story so you don't have to worry about his safety, Batman retrieves the ingredient and rushes back to Ivy. Ivy starts creating the serum and everything seems to be going great for Batman right now. That is, until Ivy says that it will take days to manufacture enough for all of Gotham. So Batman's sudden relief turns into a feeling of dread once again. Batman then looks at Poison Ivy in a panic, saying that they need that cure right now, before Ivy pauses and tells him that there is another way to save Gotham. She explains that she has killed so many human beings in the past. She has destroyed so many lives to try and protect her plants, but all it does is make everybody else angrier. The world has killed billions of her plants. She has tried so hard to stop the harming of her plants with violence, but maybe that's not the way. Maybe, if she finally shows mercy, then maybe they will do the same. Ivy then takes what's finished of the serum and injects herself with it. Ivy then tells Batman, if you want Gotham saved, please, just let me do this. Ivy then walks outside into the city and looks down at her feet before getting on her hands and knees. We then watch as she proceeds to send energy into the dirt itself. We watch the energy travel outward into the trees and the plants of Gotham City. She screams out as the energy travels, but we see so many of her plants rise up into Gotham, firing off ash into the air as the cloudburst begins to clear. As the energy continues to build, we watch as Ivy starts disintegrating herself into the ground. The fear gas continues to disperse around the city before eventually clearing up entirely. Gotham is saved and is no longer housed in the fear gas due to Ivy and her plants. That is, before she ultimately disintegrates, turning into the ash in her own right, and ultimately dying for this city. Batman understandably takes a moment as he watches the fear gas throughout the city disperse. And all because of Poison Ivy. Ivy saves Gotham so that hopefully people will remember this and finally try to save her plants as well. Oh wait, did you think we were done? After that sad and heroic moment, did you guys think we were done with this video? No, we still got the Arkham Knight to think about. After Poison Ivy sacrifices herself, we go back to playing as Robin for a bit. He is seen investigating the location of the Arkham Knight before realizing that he can be traced back to within the Arkham City walls. And through this, we get an eerie Arkham City vibe once again, as Robin has to head underground to find the Arkham Knights and hopefully save Gordon and Alfred. However, at the end of the run, Robin finds himself walking into the room underneath the Monarch Theater. You know, the one with the Lazarus Pit. He speaks into his headset saying that the trail seems to end underneath the Monarch Theater before he is cut off and immediately attacked by the Arkham Knight. Robin tries to fight back, but ultimately he gets knocked out by the Arkham Knight. As we cut back to play as Batman once again, we see him following the tracker on Robin's suit before walking into the Monarch Theater. As he walks in, he soaks in the atmosphere. This is where he spent his last night with his parents. And this is where he spent his last night with the Joker. Batman then decides to drop down below the building into the room with the Lazarus Pit. A room, however, that only has a television sitting in the middle of it. On the TV, there is another message from the Arkham Knight telling Batman to leave his gear on a nearby table. Batman obliges before turning around with the Arkham Knight standing face to face with him. As Batman and Arkham Knight walk around the room, you hear the Arkham Knight talking about how important this place is to Batman. This is the building where Joker died. This is the building that holds the last remnants of joy with his family. This is the building where Talia al Ghul died. That is before the Arkham Knight stops, turns around, and reveals it to be Talia al Ghul herself. Talia then explains, saying, "Beloved, as you can see, there is no Al Ghul that stays dead. Except for one. You see, even though I may hate my father, I knew that he understood the Lazarus Pit better than anyone. The last time Ra's and Bruce were standing in this building, Ra's told him that he used the pit too many times for his body to maintain. So, when we tried to save Ra's after you killed him, it was too much. He never came out of the pit." She says that since Ra's will stay dead this time, it's gonna have to be Talia that continues her father's work. She will continue her destiny to save this poisoned world with the symbol of the already poisoned Arkham Asylum. A place that has gone on to become a breeding ground for the most psychotic and evil people in the world. She then opens up the doors that lead into Wonder City, revealing that Robin, Gordon, and Alfred are all captured and held hostage by Arkham Knight soldiers. However, instead of soldiers, obviously, they have revealed themselves to be ninjas. Talia then gives Batman a choice. Either let his 3 closest confidants die, or finally join the League of Assassins. Talia then gives Batman a choice. Either let his 3 closest confidants die right there on the spot, or finally follow his destiny and finally become the head of the League of Assassins. Batman reluctantly agrees, saying that he will go through the demon trials once again if it means saving these people. So, just like in Arkham City, Batman drinks from the chalice once again to go through the demon challenges. However, obviously, it's under incredibly different circumstances to the last game. Instead of drinking it to save himself, he must drink it to save his family. And as Batman concludes the demon trials, he walks back out to see Talia waiting for him. Talia then says that in order to join the League, of course, he has to kill somebody. However, Talia has someone very special in mind for this task. Just then, he hears a door open off screen before he hears the sound of a body being dragged across the floor. That is, before you hear a faint laugh. That's right, strap in, it's time once again for the Joker.
I'm the Joker, baby!
And before you yell at me, I understand that people around this time were pretty sick of the Joker in these Arkham games. However, since the Joker wasn't in Arkham Knight at all up until this point, I actually think it could be a very interesting twist. Also, if you kind of think about it, the Joker is the perfect person for this scenario. Joker is the most evil person on the planet. He has killed almost everyone that he's come in contact with, including Talia al Ghul herself. If there's anyone that Batman could be talked into actually killing, and if there's anyone that Batman would reasonably kill in this moment, it's not only the Joker, but a version of the Joker that should already be dead. So Talia admits that she took the Joker's body from the morgue before dropping him into the Lazarus pit for this exact moment. However, the Joker is obviously not looking too good, okay? It's pretty obvious that Talia has decided to take some liberties and rough him up a bit. Either way though, Talia then gives Batman a sword, saying that they can finally be together if he just kills this sick and twisted clown. Batman walks closer to the Joker, looking like he almost might just do it. And as he walks toward him, the Joker starts slowly backing up until he hits the edge of a table. And on the table, we can see clearly Robin's staff. Batman then decides to knock the Joker out quickly before grabbing Robin's staff and taking down the ninjas that are holding Gordon, Alfred, and Robin hostage. He then throws Robin the staff before we finally get to see Batman and Robin fighting side by side against the ninjas. Meanwhile, Talia quickly grabs the Joker and pulls him into another room. After they get rid of the ninjas, Batman then instructs Robin to take Alfred and Gordon back up to the GCPD building for protection as he goes after Talia. Gordon looks at Batman before saying, "Bruce, go beat that son of a bitch," implying that he now obviously knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Like, yeah, we finally got it. Finally, Gordon knows that Bruce is Batman. I mean, he's one of Gotham's greatest detectives, and it only took him 12 years, but hey, we got there in the end, right? Batman nods, grabs his utility belt, and makes his way over to the room with Arkham Knight and Joker. Batman and Talia stare each other down from across the room, with Talia pointing a gun to the Joker's head. Talia then begs Bruce to join her so they can finally be together, so they can finally love, so they can finally get rid of the scum of Gotham, like Joker, like Penguin, like Scarecrow, like so many other murderers and thieves. But Batman, obviously, still refuses to kill the Joker. Talia sighs for finally pulling the trigger and killing the Joker. The air then sucks out of the room as Batman just looks at his fallen foe. Talia looks at her beloved and says, "Fine, since you didn't want to kill him, I had to do it myself. Just like how I must kill you now." So, we finally get to the fight, the big climactic ending with the Arkham Knight versus the Batman. And even though Talia proves to be an excellent fighter, perhaps even with the assistance of her ninjas from the shadows, she still falls to the Batman. And after the dust settles, we see Batman standing over the Arkham Knight. After all the stress, after all the deaths, after all the wars, Batman finally takes Talia al Ghul to the GCPD and defeats her. For the final shot of the game, we see Batman walking back, reflecting on all the deaths of the Knight. The death of Hush, the death of Joker, the death of Poison Ivy. He reflects, thinking about if Talia was right. Was Hush and Joker dying the best thing for this city, or is Batman truly the best thing for Gotham? All he knows is that after tonight, Bruce Wayne's reputation is destroyed because of Hush, and Batman's mental state was pushed to its very limit. But everyone is safe, so perhaps it was all worth it. Oh boy, that was a lot. Now, I know that you may have a few questions. More specifically about what happened to some of the key characters from Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, like Two-Face, like Catwoman, like Penguin, like Azrael, and so on. Well, to that, I say that side missions exist. However, I hope that this version of the story does a satisfying job at wrapping up most of the big plot points from the Arkham series. And hey, at least this story relies on massive character moments, as opposed to some big toy car fighting another big toy car. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know what you think of this rewrite and what other fictional stories from the worlds of movies to video games that you want me to take a look at and to rewrite. And as always, have a good day. Bye-bye.